Okay, so in this video, I'm going to sort of move to the next step. If you want to just kind of get the basics of working with spot colors and setting up spot swatches in Adobe Illustrator, go over to the Adobe Illustrator playlist, and I've got some working with color video there that, gets into the basics of setting up spot colors. Now, when I'm working on a publication design, coming up with the theme and the color palette and stuff like that, I like to define my color palette in Adobe Illustrator and then import it into Adobe InDesign, although you do not have to. So what I'm going to do is sort of get a little more into detail about how Illustrator and InDesign work together when it comes to colors. Okay, so I'm just going to close down these student projects here and just focus on a real basic one. So, when you open up your swatch library and your color controls in InDesign, this is the default that you get. At least InDesign is aware that CMYK is our primary target, so the default swatch libraries are all CMYK mixes, and they're all rational mixes that don't have fractions of a percent in the color. And they're defined as global colors that you can tint. So, I mean, if the Adobe Illustrator color swatch worked like this out of the gate, I would give it, a 50% passing grade, because it's a little better, because you're naturally tinting these colors like they are, like they're spots. But what we want is we want a consistent lookup. So this continues on from using the Pantone Color Bridge for our looks. And we do want to be defining them as spot colors, even if we're going to be converting them to CMYK at press, which we are 9 times out of 10. There is the occasion that you will have the opportunity to use an additional Pantone color, sometimes up to 10 colors. So you have your basic CMYK, which is 4, and then you can then, depending on the press you're on, if it's offset, then you can actually run your real Pantone colors. So you might as well define Pantone colors. It just gives you the flexibility down the road to get something that's a little more vibrant, outside of the gamut, just brings that extra level of pop. Plenty of magazines do have at least 1 or 2 spot colors available in them. So you want to be in the habit of using them. Again, this default color palette is pretty default looking. I kind of delete it just to clean things up when I'm getting started. But like I say, I'm going to want to, define swatch, right, I've used it, so I'm going to just replace it with black, which is just the border that had been applied to this text field. But I don't want that. Okay, so this is really sort of your starting point with getting a color palette together. But I'm going to switch over to Adobe Illustrator, and I'm just going to make myself a color palette file. It's just a file that I'm going to import into InDesign. But the reason I like to do it in Illustrator is because often there are graphics that you need to create in Illustrator, and we want to be able to match those colors exactly in Adobe InDesign. So you can define a swatch in either InDesign or Illustrator, and you can cut and paste back and forth to get your consistent color palette. But we're just going to start from scratch here. Delete everything, because I don't like these default swatches and they're not useful anyway. And let's actually change our document color mode to RGB. I should have done that when I created my file. We want to be working in CMYK because we're working for print here. I mean, it works either way. It just changes the color model. So when you make a new swatch, let's say I just want to kind of some random color here. That's pretty black. Let's do something like that. So this is a spot color at CM, just whatever. That's just a mix. And say I'm happy with that color. And then I'm going to do like a cardinal red as another swatch. Okay. So there's that's my basic 2 colors, right? So I'm working along. I'm like, you know what? I'm too lazy. I'm not going to go define this Pantone color yet. That's fine. So I'm just going to save this in my sample working folder. So I'll just call it color palette draft. Just an AI file is fine. There we go. So it's saving quite slowly. I have a feeling all those background processes in InDesign are starting to add up and cause problems, aren't they? Yeah. I'm going to save my work here too, because I'm probably going to have to restart everything. Okay, so Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign seem to have recovered from their little sleepy time there. So let's get back into it. So I'm just going to go back to my working kind of document demo that I'd made my paragraph styles in, and I made my character styles. And now I want to start introducing a color palette, you know. So I've got my Adobe Illustrator color palette that I like these two colors, let's say. So I'm just going to, I've saved that as my color palette. So I'm going to now just place that Illustrator file into my InDesign project. Thank you, Adobe InDesign, for completely ignoring where I'm working. Okay, so I've made my color palette draft AI file, so I'm just going to place that. Okay. Boom. So you notice right away my spot colors show up here. Okay. So now I want to start introducing the idea of a standardized color palette with Pantone. So again, just going back to that previous video, if you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it. It's just about color palette, but about the Pantone color system. But when we get into publication design, we really do want to know that we've got a standard that can be looked up. So this is where Color Bridge comes into play, and we definitely do want to make a habit of using it. And you know, this is looking like Adobe and Pantone are starting to address that there are some challenges with the pre-built distributed Color Bridge library. This is the new version, connect.pantone.com. So it's kind of, you can get a link from it from the old Pantone.com color finder. It looks like they're getting serious about making this Pantone Connect thing work. But the same basic thing is still here. You still got your convert search. You just got some color trending palettes, which you can use for inspiration or whatever. But they're all going to be based off of palettes that are outside of the CMYK color space. You can definitely still adapt these because these are RGB, and we can absolutely find lookups. So if we want to use one of these, we can. But I'm just going to go through and do the basic conversion from my CMYK lookups, right? So whatever this first color is, this teal color, I don't know. But 78 magenta, 21, or 78 cyan, 21 magenta, 37 yellow, 23 black, 78, 21, 37, 23. Okay, so we're just going to go look up that Pantone bridge value. Color Bridge says 2213. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the values. Oh, that's nice. They've actually made it copyable now. That's sweet. That's nice. Nice update. I like that. So I'm going to copy that to clipboard. That's kind of cool. You can create a new palette based on that, find some harmonies. I like it. This is a nice update. This is the first time I've ever used this new Color Connect. But I'm going to copy that to clipboard. Let's see if I can go over to Adobe Illustrator at 77, 26, 33, 27 and just paste it into my values. I doubt it, but let's see. No. But at least, you know, if I can't remember the values, I could just place them into text, I guess. You know, if my memory really is cheese, which it pretty much is, you know, I'm going to go and adjust those values. So 77, 26, 33, 27. I can't remember what that number was, but at least the values are in there. Let's go back and grab the actual Pantone color name, 2213CP. Okay. All right. So now that color has been rationalized to match that spot. If we ever could run a spot, it's going to come out really close. Our CMYK mix is going to be set as good as it can be according to Color Bridge. So we're going to just save that. I really don't know what's slowing my system down. Illustrator files should never take this long to save. Something is seriously bogging in the background, but for the sake of the progress, we'll be able to go. So this file will, InDesign is going to recognize that I've modified this file once Illustrator finishes saving it. Okay, but let's just go and re-import it anyway. I should now have another color swatch that matches. Is it not done saving yet? Okay, it is now. Yeah, so now it's been updated. That's what that means. Click to update it. So now what it's done is it's gone and brought in the Pantone 2213, but you'll notice it left the previous swatch library because now that color is still available, but it's, we want to make sure we delete that. We haven't used it anywhere, so we could do the select all unused, but that's fine. Now you can also define a color here using the exact same process. You don't have to do it in Adobe Illustrator, but you just want to have these colors available between the two, and you want to have them consistent. So you can do the same thing. You can define a new color swatch. It normally doesn't take anywhere near that long to load up. And you can set your value sliders. So 7100, 7323. Okay, let's go look that one up next. That doesn't look right. I think I did not remember the value. What was it? 7323. That looks closer. So Pantone 187, which is 0100 7426. Okay, so can't quite as easily cut and paste anymore with this new interface. That's not ideal, but anyway. It is kind of drag and droppy, so that's kind of some funky UI design. But I got to remember 187 CP, that's fine. Just going to switch back and forth. Normally I'd have these on two monitors, so don't have to remember. 187 CP 0124. What was the final value? Not 23, I don't think. 26, 74, 26. 74, not 26. Hopefully, the extension that they come out with, they say they're updating in August, is going to eliminate the need to do this. So that is my hope, that you can install a plugin and you're actually going to get the real bridge values. That would be wonderful. But right now, this is what you got to do. So there we go. I'm going to fill this shape with that color. And now I'm just going to copy and paste this over to Illustrator. And my performance is just really poor here, but okay, so there we go. It's imported that into my Illustrator file just by cutting and pasting. So you can go both ways. I just sort of like to define my color swatches in Adobe Illustrator first and then place that Adobe Illustrator element into my InDesign file, and that imports all the colors. But if you change them in Illustrator and then go and update that link, it's not going to delete, the file. It's going to just add a new swatch. So it's kind of 6 1 half dozen the other, the way you want to do it. So I just personally like to do it in Adobe Illustrator. Totally nothing wrong with defining it in Adobe InDesign, but we do want to see Pantone spot colors defined with their name and then the color bridge value matched. So that is sort of the basics, most basic way I can kind of run through that in getting your color palette going with proper Pantone values in Adobe InDesign. And that only took 14 minutes, so not too painful.